Democratic Senator Sheldon Whitehouse, member of the Judiciary Committee, which would hold a nomination hearing. Senator, good afternoon to you, and thank you for your time on our program today.
Good to be with you, Bill. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, can you stop this, or can Democrats stop this now?
You know, I don't think we have a triple secret procedural trick device in our back pockets that we didn't use during the Gorsuch proceedings and didn't use during the Kavanaugh proceedings. So I think it's really a question of shedding light and making sure everybody gets a chance to understand what the consequences of this are.
Okay, so then you seem to be resigned then based on that answer of the inevitable. Do I hear you correctly?
Well, the public gets a voice. So if it turns out that in a lot of races, this is coming up as something that is really hurting Republican Senate candidates, then there may be some, modification of positions along the way. But there's no procedural trick that we've been holding in our back pockets all this time.
So you're watching polling then between now and November 3rd, keeping a close eye on which races then, Senator, based on that?
Well, I suspect all the ones where there's a real contest, but I don't have a list in front of me.
Where are you?
I think the point is that the public really has a voice in all of this, and it's going to be important to us to, show people what is at stake here.
Where are you on changing the composition of the court in terms of numbers?
I haven't said a thing about it, and I don't intend to. I think that we have an immediate question, which is, what do we do about this vacancy, and how do we fill it? And what I have said is that I do think that my Republican colleagues, if they ram this appointment through, contrary to the precedent they themselves set, they have forfeited their standing to complain about future procedural efforts that Senate Democrats might make. You can't have a situation in which Senate rules and traditions and norms all get broken when one side is in power, and then they get to blow the whistle when the other side does the same thing. But that's not a promise of what we're going to do. That's just kind of, a warning to Republicans that if they want the Senate to be that way, keep acting the way you're acting. But if you want it to be a little bit more normal, then you're going to have to be a little bit more normal.
If the Senate were to flip, there's been talk too, some would characterize them as threats, that Democrats would change the filibuster rule. Are you on board that if it comes to it?
Again, I don't know that we need to go there. We don't even have a majority at this point, and I think there are probably a broad array of views within the caucus about how to proceed. Everybody has used budget reconciliation before. There's an avenue for getting big things done with a simple majority. And there may be specific cases where we run into such intransigence that we've got to try to find some extraordinary measure. But I would put that well ahead of coming in and saying, okay, we're done with the filibuster day one. This is a new world.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be important for the public to see intransigence first.
I understand the point you're making. You heard what Lindsey Graham said there about the Brett Kavanaugh experience. What do you think of that comment?
Yeah, I mean, you had a candidate for the United States Supreme Court about whom, during the process, a credible allegation of sexual assault was made by a woman who was a college professor who was willing to come to the Senate and testify. The idea that anybody was going to turn away from that and sweep that under the rug is just crazy. So the notion that these things are devices for, I think he said, destroying the life of the candidate, just isn't so. We were under an obligation to try to get to the bottom of what happened.
And you
do have somebody on the court who was a sexual offender of some kind. That's obviously not a good place for the court to be.
And your colleagues think you tried to rip his life apart publicly. One more question on this. There are those, you mentioned the election, your first answer there.
Precisely because of a very specific allegation.
I'm very short on time here. There are those who suggest that with so much happening right now with regard to the economy and COVID and everybody's lives being upside down in the middle of a campaign that's 43, 44 days away, that the Supreme Court job really it doesn't have the ripple effect that it would have normally. Have you thought about that, perhaps?
I think the big issues for the public are still the economy, getting our arms around COVID as we go through the 200,000th death, and I think a question of kind of tone out of the Oval Office. I think there's a lot of exhaustion, and I think Vice President Biden is working hard to kind of play a decency card. And I think those are probably the strongest things to lead with. And I think if you look at the way candidates are behaving in close races and the way our nominee is behaving, I think that'll be, that's confirmed by the way they're behaving.
Perhaps that's why Joe Biden's speech was all about COVID yesterday and nothing on the Supreme Court. Senator, I appreciate your time. Let's talk again very soon.
Thank you, Bill.
Sheldon Whitehouse from Rhode Island. Thank you.